Welcome back to our show where humanity meets technology. We're with Andrew, and he's actually talking to us about energy. And Kelly, of course, my co-host. I can't forget my wife co-host here, and we're talking about that. Andrew, you actually touched on something a few minutes ago in the last segment. We talked about how the United States is actually really leading the drive and actually pushing more of a green initiative. Mm-hmm. And I look at and read all kind of information about United States. We have Finland, we have Denmark, we got Australia. These countries are doing a really, really great focus and make that happen. And then we have a lot of countries that really want to make it happen, but they have a lot of corruption. They have a lot of instability. They have wars, all kind of things that we really cannot control that actually pushes us to the next level. So when we talk about the really big push and that big drive there for actually how we can actually do that, what are your thoughts? And especially I want to kind of pinpoint this a little bit on something that's happening in the future. A lot of people, a lot of politicians talk about, like, for example, the new energy grid. And I know that there's a lot of our energy grid is so old now, dated now. What are your thoughts when it comes to the concepts like the energy grid and how we can actually even take it to the next level as a country and society?
Yeah, I think making an analogy to old technology is key. So like your old plasma TVs, your old cell phones, they were huge, they were heavy, they were inefficient, right? And everything got smaller, more compact. And now we have a computer in our pockets at all times, a cell phone. So the same thing's happening with energy, right? The innovations that are coming out are going to be better. They're going to be more compact. We're going to be able to provide power at a bigger scale, but that takes time. Utility from a grand scale, it takes 10 to 15 to 20 years to create these PPMs and to build on the amount of power that is needed for our society. So, you mentioned in California, rolling brownouts and blackouts that happen out there, they've incorporated wind and solar to help with those. And so they can be power generation because there's no new power generation, big power plants going out in California, right? So I think innovation and moving us closer to that and our businesses and small businesses and honestly the big guys, I think investing in that is going to be what brings us to create the power at a cheaper rate, but also more efficiently.
And you mentioned a cheaper rate because I look at one of the biggest factors that's really slowing us down to go to another level is the cost. Would you? I know we talked about that before. Would you say the cost is probably be one of the
huge? Yeah. I mean, if you think about the utility and creating power, you don't think about it. It's a private company, right? Here in Houston, you got Entergy and you got the ERCOT. And they are a private company, but they are heavily regulated. So you have people on the left and right that are arguing, how do we make more power? The bureaucracy of it all kind of holds a lot of that stuff up. But once you do have that innovation, you put that in, where does that burden come back to? It comes back to the taxpayer. We're all going to be paying more taxes to say, okay, we want more businesses to come here to Houston. That's going to be great for economy. Well, how do you get that power that's going to be needed to sustain that area? So I think from an innovation standpoint, we're going to have to add to that, but that takes time. You're going to see a lot of bridges. And this is for like small businesses, medium-sized businesses. You're going to see a lot of bridge to utility microgrids that pop up that use, they're going to be using natural gas reciprocating turbines, stuff like that to produce a 2, a 3, a 4 megawatt power plant to have an AI data center. And that's going to bring jobs. That's going to bring more innovation. That's going to bring a lot of really good things to a local economy. But that stuff takes a lot of money. So that would be a way that doesn't pass on to the taxpayer. That's a private company that's going to put in that power themselves, and then they're going to sell that to the Amazons and to the big guys that are coming in here, or a company that is trying to make jet fuel, right, or manufacture jet fuel. That company wants to come here to Texas. They don't have power for it. How do you do that? You have a company that creates a microgrid, and now they're a mini utility providing power. There's still bureaucracy there, but that allows you to be competitive with the big guys in the utility companies.
Excellent. Now, my next question, this is probably something that Kelly can relate to, and that's more residential. Something that what can we do to really kind of lower the cost, and we can actually help with the with green energy as well. I know I can walk around the house, and if I leave a light on, I'll definitely hear, my neighbors can hear, Kelly saying it in a really nice way, because she's not yelling at me, but saying, honey, you left the lights on, but those are the things you probably add a little bit more about that. I'm sure that those costs probably add up over time. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So lights, fans, the bigger motor starters, so your AC units, your heaters, condensers.
Even dialing down a little bit on your AC,
Absolutely.
or up and down on your heat a little bit. Put a hoodie on, put it on, cover up with a blanket if you're sitting watching TV. That adds up over time.
And that's everybody doing that, right? If we're all selfish and thinking about, my comfortability instead of like, well, this might help us provide power to X, so thinking about how it helps humanity, right? I think that's the biggest thing of this show.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I also think that it's really, really important. You hit on this, and I love it. It's be open about it. When like our government will come in and say, okay, we're going to do XYZ by 2029. And it's like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
You're a politician, you're not an expert.
Mm-hmm.
We need to talk to the experts. Bring the experts in to a meeting, put the cameras on them, and let them discuss what they want to do. It's a good thing to have a goal, but to set that goal in stone, I think it harms the American people because it's going to cost us more. There's going to be mistakes made along the way, and it's easier to take your time and fix those little by little rather than doing something and we're like, oh, we got to cut this whole wall down, or the whole building's a mess, or the foundation is off. Like, you need to fix it as it goes along. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that
don't be in a rush.
Yeah. I think oversight on both sides, right? So transparency and oversight, making sure that you're looking, the private sector is looking at government and saying, hey, we're going to put a check on you, and vice versa. I mean, we all have the IRS sticking their heads in our business all the time for our taxes. Why wouldn't we do the same thing and say, make sure that we're spending the money the right way, right? And there's already so many regulations and that are for the good, right? That had started early 2000s and on to reduce our emission and our footprint when it talks to power. So those things are there. They're there to so that we can better ourselves along the way, and that's going to improve innovation. That's one way the government has stepped in and said, we need to improve innovation and make this a more livable space that we live in the long run. But if there's too much overreach, the hand needs to be slapped, and vice versa. So I think doing it transparency and transparently is, in my opinion, the only way to do it. And it's the best way to do it. And you can have conversations across the aisle with people you disagree with and say, man, okay, I see where you're coming from and how to get there. But it's not just by stopping. It's not by stopping what we've been doing, because there's no other way to do it. There's no other way to produce power than what we've been doing, especially in a fast changing world. So
excellent. That makes sense. So I have my last question would be, and going to really pretty similar to what you just mentioned there. And I think that we as a society have seen it where we've seen the extreme of saying, you can't use a gas stove, you can't do this, your lawnmower, you can't, all these different things that we can't do. And everybody put all these regulations on it. Then you have some other people say, oh, everything's okay, everything's fine and dandy. And I think that there's actually a big, that intersect where we actually have where everybody's supposed to get together. I think there's a lot of conflict there, and a lot of people saying, I don't know what to believe anymore. So, and it goes back when you talk about energy. I think that psychologically can have an impact on us. What do you think about that?
Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
but it sounds like you're saying that you agree that, when you think about all the regulations, that the people are pushing us so much, and they can actually kind of like have the adverse effect of actually trying to get us to the next level.
Like over-regulating.
Yes.
It's just a mess. It's
for sure.
That micromanaging and pinpointing, and that can halt you, and then you turn around down the road and you're forced to rush it ahead, and that's when all the mistakes happen and everything.
There are some very large power I'll relate this back to something that I'm working on. Very large power projects approved during the Bush administration all the way through to the Obama administration. Well, it was a coal-powered power plant. And it got nixed. Well, how can we use that? It's a steam turbine. how can we use the steam turbine, but use a better, less emission thing? But $1 billion, deal that got nixed after all the money has been spent. And that's through bureaucracy and it taking 15 years to even get that power to be approved. So I think that, we can nitpick things and we can, slow things down, but we need to come together and make a more streamlined way to get power to people so that we can continue to innovate and continue to do the things that we do as Americans and lead the way.
And bring in the experts.
Exactly. So we want to thank you guys. We've had a really great conversation talking about power, talking about energy with Andrew McCain from McCain Power Systems. Make sure I'm saying it correctly. Got it right there. And with my co-host Kelly here. So we really enjoyed everyone's just joining us for this podcast here, because I think this is a conversation, a topic that everybody can relate to. And we just want to thank you all. And so we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.